Hello guys, and welcome back to the client case study series. This week we are covering Jake. Now Jake is a guy who probably has one of the best levels of development in his lower body in the natural bodybuilding scene. So he's again someone like Emma from a few weeks back who is consistently asked, whether or not he's going to compete, has easily got a physique that would be very highly competitive in natural bodybuilding as a sport. However, has literally just no interest in competing and just does this for his own enjoyment and to create, the best physique possible. So to give you a little bit of background on Jake, he and I actually worked together as personal trainers at Emporium Gym back pre-COVID, so a fair few years ago now. And I always remember sort of looking at him eating the exact same meal again, over and over again for every meal, which was a bag of basmati rice and 2 tins of tuna for every single meal, multiple times a day, without fail. And I always remember looking at him and thinking, like, this is a guy that if he lost a little bit of body fat, would have an unbelievably good physique, but he never seemed to actually do it. And then a few years down the line, so 2 years ago, almost to the day now, just over 2 years ago actually, he approached me and said, look, and it was actually off the back of an Instagram post saying that, too much body fat can easily hide a very high level physique. And I actually made a post about this on Instagram, and then off the back of that, Jake got in touch with me and said, mate, I really want to crack, my nutrition and unlock the full potential of my physique. So we sat down, we figured things out, and we realized that he was someone that was just basically focusing on the wrong things with his nutrition. He was hyper fixated on just making sure that his nutrition was extremely clean, but it was unbelievably bland, boring, and it didn't have any long-term strategy. So he was always eating clean and putting in a lot of effort with his training and with his nutrition, but he never actually got any leaner. He just stayed the same body weight. So when he first came to us, he'd actually been almost like perma-bulking for many years. He was in sort of the mid 15 stone region, and he had absolutely loads of muscle relative to his frame. And I don't think he really realized when he first started with me, quite how much muscle he actually had. So we sort of explained the basic principles to him of, how things need to be structured, the rate at which we should be losing weight, how we were going to accomplish this. And he was unbelievably disciplined with sticking to everything that I laid out to like a very, very high level. And he absolutely nailed that first fat loss phase. So very quickly, we saw drastic changes in his physique as the body fat started to come down. And we were able to get him over a course of a few months into unbelievable shape, okay? So he got absolutely shredded. He handled it like an absolute champion and created a phenomenal physique that, to be honest, would have won the overall at a lot of natural bodybuilding competitions had he chosen to enter them. But again, like I said, just not something that really interested him. He was doing it, but for slightly more personal reasons. He just wanted to create a top tier physique. He didn't care about showing it off on stage or whatever. So we got him into phenomenal shape. And to be honest, he faces a lot of obstacles to get to that point. Yeah, he does shift work that regularly includes night shifts. Now, as you can imagine, getting extremely lean, is very fatiguing. If you're also dealing with a significant degree of sleep deprivation, constantly having to adjust, your sleep habits and your sleep schedule, it's very, very difficult, but he handled it unbelievably well. So we got him into truly top tier shape. He got absolutely shredded, looked unbelievable, and it's really clear to see, he is a great example of, that thing I was talking about, where if you carry too much body fat, you can hide a very, very high level physique and it not look particularly impressive. Now, as he got leaner and leaner, which again did also face its own obstacles. He has a hernia, which caused him a lot of pain with direct ab training. As you can see, didn't really stop him getting a really well-developed set of abs. We had to be quite careful with his exercise selection. We had to manage his fatigue quite carefully as he got leaner, obviously working night shifts, but he got to a really, really high level physique. And then we were able to sort of analyze his look and say, look, what you are really sort of lacking here is purely just back development. So erector spinae and lats. Everything else was unbelievably muscular. In fact, if you were to run his numbers, you would see that he would be sort of a top 0.1% outlier on the fat-free mass index. So that is, how much muscle someone has relative to their frame. He would be on the very edge of what is, possible as a natural guy. But he is very much a natural guy. Never touched anything. He's just very diligent, has good genetics, trains extremely hard and extremely consistently. But we saw when we got very, very lean that actually the one thing he was lacking was the erector spinae and the lats. So we then moved into a lengthy gaining phase. And during this gaining phase, we steadily ramped up his back training volume. So we tested his tolerance of what he could handle from a recovery perspective. Most other things were kept, close to maintenance or just above it. He still actually grew almost everywhere, but we really doubled down on the back growth. And we got him up to the point where he was training back 3 times a week. So we worked a upper, lower, upper, lower, upper split. And that worked incredibly nicely. It's a very flexible split that allows you to really push the volume for weaker areas like the back. Obviously, we really did a deep dive into his exercise execution, selection, found what worked best for him. And we were able to make some phenomenal progress in that off season. He's now working with Coach Nick to provide a little bit more variety to his nutrition. We're working on being a little bit more of a normal human being with his nutrition rather than a robot, which is what Jake sort of naturally gravitates towards, and make sure that he's not developing any sort of micronutrient deficiencies, anything like that. After a really successful off season, he's now dieting again, and he's made an incredibly productive start to this. So as you can see here, he's already in very, very good condition. And this is a full 1.5 stones heavier than he was at the end of his first diet. So, to give you an idea of, his body weight change over time, started off in the mid-15s, dieted down to, I think, 11 stone 4. And he is now, after pushing back up, nowhere near that 15.3 mark, he's now in the high 12s, so about 12 stone 13, 12 stone 12, and approaching similar condition to what was achieved first time round. So a little bit more to go, but it's very clear that he has gained a phenomenal amount of muscle in that period because he was very diligent with his nutrition and because we were very, very productive with his training, and we made the training reflect the needs of his physique. So you can see the back has improved hugely from the first diet to the second diet. And I thought this would be a really good one to showcase this week for really 2 reasons. Number one, it shows how much excess body fat can essentially mask even an extremely high level physique like Jake has. And it also shows how much even sort of fairly drastic impediments like sleep deprivation from working shift work can be worked around as long as you are willing to put the hard yards in. Jake always is very diligent with tracking his food. He hits his macros to the gram. He makes sure that he is in full control of whatever can be controlled. And truthfully, that is the mindset that you need to have if you are going to get the absolute best outcomes from progressing your physique and trying to put as much as you can into this process. Hopefully it's a little bit of inspiration for those of you who've been training for a long time. You're not quite seeing the progress that you want in the mirror. It might be a good indication that actually all you need to do is just drop a bit more body fat and you might be surprised at what is underneath.